Alright, first let's take a look at the finished example. Seems pretty simple on the surface, and it is, but it's actually doing a couple of things at the same time. It's animating its location on the stage, but it's also animating that bounce movement. So that's two things. And so to help us do this, we're going to utilize a symbol to help us do that. So we're going to animate within a symbol. So the first thing we're going to do is handle that bounce animation, and we're going to do it inside a graphic. That way we can contain that animation and then move it along the stage on the main timeline. So if we look here, we've got it set up, and let's just kind of look at the animation. So the pogo stick kind of compresses down and then springs up, and then we get to the point where it almost lands, and then it'll loop back to the beginning. So if you played that over and over again, it would be a continuous loop. So go ahead and open up your start file. The completed version is also there for you to look at. So open up your start file, and then you should just see a couple of just regular drawn objects. And the first thing we want to do is kind of contain this into a graphic, these two pieces. So I'm going to draw a box around them, press F8, and I'm going to name this Pogo Jump. And I'm going to make it a graphic. I'm going to say OK. And we'll look in the library, and there it is, Pogo Jump. So right now there's a blue box around it, so it's telling us that that's inside a container called Pogo Jump. So now we'll want to edit that. So I'm going to double click inside that, and you could see it says Pogo Jump here in the breadcrumbs navigation. I could also go into the library and double click it here, and it would open that up. Same thing. So I'm going to double click that on the main timeline, and I want to animate these two parts separately, so they need to be on their own layer by themselves. So I'm going to just grab this first bit by drawing a box over it and pressing Cut Apple X or Edit Cut. Start a new layer and press Apple Shift V to paste in place. So that's on its own layer. Then I'm just going to go ahead and move that to the center of the stage so it aligns. I'm going to use the line palette. That would be Window Align, and I'm going to click this To Stage button. That's going to align it to this X here. There we go. Click that the pogo part, and align that. Alright, so now that they're on their own layer, following the rules of animating with Flash, each one of these needs to be its own symbol. It's inside a symbol called Pogo Jump, but these things that we're animating aren't symbols, they're just drawn objects. So conceptually sometimes it's a little difficult to figure out, but we're going to animate these things separately within Pogo Jump, so these also need to be symbol. So I'm going to select the pogo stick here and press F8 and name this Pogo Part on top. Alright, I'm going to hide that for a second so I can grab that, and I'm going to name this Pogo Part B for bottom. Okay, so now they're on their own layer by themselves, and they're both symbols. So symbols can contain other symbols, and symbols can contain animations, and then that's what we're doing. So now we're almost ready to begin animating. I want to label these layers here, and I want to create a guide layer so I can tell where the ground is. So what I'm going to do is create a new layer, and I'm going to double click that icon right there, and I'm going to create a guide layer. That way I'm just using this artwork on this layer as a reference, and I don't want to see it when I produce the animation, I just want to use it as a guide. So I created a guide layer by double-clicking that icon, choosing guide. Just go ahead and label this ground. And I'm just going to draw a line here right at the base of that pogo stick, just so I can tell where the ground is. So let's go to the finished example and just kind of look at that real quick. We've got our top, our bottom, and our ground. And the top, let's turn that off for a second. The top is just kind of squashing down and then jumping up. The bottom part stays put until it gets enough juice to start springing up, and then it slowly starts springing out. Goes over about 15 frames. I like to divide things if I can into 5s or 10s or something easy to remember, and that's going to be important in the future. So I'm going to set this up in 5 frame increments. So back to our version here. What I'm going to do is create some frames. So it looks like we need about 15 frames. So I'm going to select all of those frames by just click holding and dragging, pressing F5. So I've got all the frames I need. And I'm going to work on this top here first. So I'm going to right click and choose create motion tween, and then I'm just going to squash this first part down. So at frame 5 I'm just going to move this down. It's a pogo stick, you push down on it, that spring's not going to move until you jump back up. So it's just going to squash down and get revved up and ready to spring up. So that was the easy part. So the next part, we want to start animating those two parts springing up. The bottom part really just needs to stay put for those first 5 frames. So I'm going to click on that keyframe or that frame and create a keyframe. So you do that by pressing F6, and that's like a new start. It's sitting here waiting, and then we're saying, well, I want to begin animating at that point. So I pressed F6 to create a keyframe, and I want those to spring up to frame 10. I'm going to create a motion tween on that layer. Then I'm going to animate them both up. So let me zoom out just a little bit. So I'm going to grab them both. I'm going to move my playhead to frame 10, and then just grab them both. And then with my arrow keys, or if I press shift, and just kind of put that in the middle of the axis. This is about as high as we want it. We're squashing down and then springing up. Now this pole here would start to decompress as the pogo stick jumped up. So at frame 10, we're just going to grab that end of that and start moving that down a little bit. As you can see, like when it starts to jump up, that's when that spring starts decompressing. Then finally, I'm going to move the playhead to frame 15, and then move that pogo stick back down a little bit because it's going to continue to decompress. And then I'm going to move the whole pogo stick till it almost reaches the bottom, because we want to create this loop to get to the beginning part of that. So it looks like this pole's a little high, so I'm going to move that up. Maybe I'll go back, move that up a bit. So this is always going to take some fine tuning to make it look correct. So it compresses, jumps up, and then starts to move down. Alright, so let's test that. So this is inside, we're doing this inside a graphic here. So let's go back to scene 1 and test it.